Welcome to the Black Duck Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Wilkins. I'm excited to have you join me as I speak with a fascinating collection of folks, all of whom have in common that they've made a way for themselves by finding an intersection between thoughtful consideration and the tactile work of getting their hands dirty. This is an examination of intention, capability, and craft. It's where philosophy meets the blue-collar work ethic and where I find real value. Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. This week, I am joined by Wade Truong and Rachel Owen of Elevated Wild. Elevated Wild is a Instagram account, a website, a brand that I've been following for probably about 3 years now. I was immediately struck by the quality of the content they were producing, by the phenomenal recipes they were posting, and just kind of by the overall ethos that was apparent in everything that these two folks do. I think a couple years ago, I reached out to them and asked if they wanted to talk on the phone, and I talked to both of them independently, and that's kind of been going on for a couple years now. And then this conversation was recorded at the tail end of an event I put on every year at Black Duck Revival called The Revival. It's just a time when, usually a weekend or something like that I take to invite people that I appreciate or admire or just want to hang out with and hunt with. And I bring them out. We hang out and cook and kind of fellowship and get to know one another. And it was really kind of a weird deal because I felt like I was already friends with these folks, even though I had never really even laid eyes on them before. So this is a fantastic conversation with two people that I admire very much and respect very much. And I think that if you aren't already familiar with them, you'll come out of this conversation feeling a similar way that I do. So we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Rachel and Wade of Elevated Wild. Welcome back to the Black Duck Revival Podcast. I am sitting in the Black Duck Bungalow, my Shangri-La when in Brinkley, and I'm joined today by Wade Truong and Rachel Owen of Elevated Wild, based in Virginia. These folks came up for an event I put on. This is the third year in a row, called The Revival. It's basically just a hunt that I do with people that I think are interesting or thought-provoking or are doing like cool and important stuff, and that I like to follow, that I'm fans of, that I admire in some way. These are both folks that I've been talking to like on the phone and on the internet for a couple of years now, and I kept begging them to come out, and finally I wore them down, and they came out to hunt birds and cook and wash dishes and hopefully have a good time. But Wade and Rachel, welcome, and thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Jonathan.
You got it, dude. So, man, we've had really good conversations so far this week, and I feel like many of them, I'm glad, are not recorded and just exist in our minds and in the ether. But for this one, I've kind of been thinking about like what I wanted to talk about, and I came to the conclusion that I have no idea. You guys are just both super interesting to talk to. You've got really fantastic and interesting perspectives. And like we were just kind of talking about before we ate a late breakfast there, I'm so appreciative of you guys because, for many different reasons, but one reason being that in this space, this outdoor industry space, I feel like there's often like a lot of points of disconnect I encounter with people because I'm dealing with people that have spent their entire lives like rock climbing or skiing or doing these things in the outdoor industry. And that's not what I like grew up doing. I grew up playing in bands and working in restaurants and taking cigarette breaks and stuff, and which is like seems like a little bit of a dirty secret these days, but that's what I grew up doing, and those were the people I was around. And You guys both spent a lot of time in the restaurant industry, kind of freshly out of it, it seems. And there's just I don't know, kind of like a perceived grit. I feel there that I feel like a little bit of a kinship towards. But beyond that, this brand that you have, this brand that's like developing and has been growing for a couple years, Elevated Wild, in just a second, I'm going to ask you guys to like describe that and what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. But just first, let me say it's an entity that I dig so much because I like look at it with some sort of kinship, but also like with admiration, like the level of skill and execution that's brought to it. I really appreciate the level of thoughtfulness and the intent behind it is super resonant for me. And, I don't know, just like everything I see you guys do, it makes me feel really good, and it kind of like inspires me and like makes me, just like I told you, like every time you do something cool, I'm like, damn, I wish I had done that first. And it's cool that there are people that exist, that can make you feel that way. And so anyway, whoever wants to go first, why don't you guys just talk a little bit about maybe like what Elevated Wild is. We'll get in all sorts of like rabbit holes, so to speak. But yeah, so like just what's Elevated Wild? Why do you guys do it? What's it about?
So kind of Wade and I, neither one of us grew up hunting. And the thing that ultimately drew us into the hunting world was food. And, we wanted the ability to source our own proteins and get our hands dirty and just have a say in the way that our food gets to the table. And one of the things that, when we first got started was kind of in its infancy was the wild foods movement. And so, we wanted to be able to contribute to that movement and be able to kind of put out there the recipes as well as just kind of our story of what it's like living our life in the outdoors. And so, we started our website. We started at first strictly just posting recipes. Now we do a mix of kind of recipes and essays. But it's a way for us to kind of share our love for the outdoors with people. And we really feel like the food, it bridges a lot of gaps between people. You can get non-hunters interested in hunting with the food. And, there are a lot of hunters out there that maybe don't necessarily know what to do with their game, or they've got some tried and true stuff, but they want to try something new. And so just kind of expanding people's horizons and, bringing new ideas to the table was kind of how we got our start.
Yeah, I think there's no disadvantage to having more perspectives on a subject matter or anything really. Like Rachel said, both of us are, non-traditional hunters. First generation, we taught ourselves, we taught each other, like we worked together. We didn't know anybody hunted. And, it started with food and our desire for food and our just, curiosity of wild food. And it's kind of developed into an entire lifestyle where it's like, it's changed us so much that, we can see the benefit of it, like what we do and what other people are doing, helping people out and just making them ask questions. I think asking questions and questioning the norm is, the best thing you can do for yourself. That's how you grow. That's how you, just kind of become a more well-rounded person, like we're here today, right? Like, because you found us interesting, we found you interesting, and we're like, here we are, we're meeting up with somebody in Arkansas, freezing weather with guns. And we're having a great time, we're like spilling our guts, drinking coffee. It's
meeting strangers on the internet.
Yeah, no, it's
lots of gut spilling.
Yeah. It's just, I think when you're around people that share something in common, it makes it a lot easier to connect with them, become vulnerable, and have these conversations that I don't know, you just wouldn't have otherwise. You build these relationships around something that we have in common. And I think food is something that everybody has in common. Everybody's got to eat. And if you can sit around with people and share a story, share a meal, I mean, that's the best starting point, I think, for anything, any relationship.
Yeah, man, it's I almost want to skip over some of that because it's like it's well said, and I think it's something that's like pretty easily like understandable to people. You know, like food is a connecting point. Like it's a it's the bridge between cultures. It's like this connection between people and families, all this stuff. Um, and I think we'll talk more about food. I kind of want to circle back to what what I found like initially so interesting is because like so say like Wade specifically. So this is kind of like a Capulet and Montague relationship because you guys were like front of the house and back of the house in a restaurant. And I was a decidedly back of the house person with many biases and prejudices against the front of the house. And perhaps this is like just some of my perceptions, but like Wade, I really view you as kind of like dare I say like Bourdain-esque, right? Like, and it's this way of, to me, it's like this super authentic and, if I'm really going to say it, like the way I think you should come up in a kitchen to where you like kind of earn your way in. There's like this real blue collar, I mean, like a lot of analogous stuff to like a construction site, there's like rough talk and hazing and pushing of people and there's like tattoos and like people that have been in prison and like maybe if you had like taken like just a different turn you could have ended up like that. And I'm not saying you in particular but just anybody. I kind of feel like that.
I mean,
you're
pretty spot on so far.
Yeah. And it's like hanging out by dumpsters and staying up late and like drinking and just all of these things that are kind of like this like romanticism, this like Kerouac-esque kind of lifestyle. And like we've talked about some of that, like you definitely performed on a much higher level than I ever reached in a kitchen, but all of that stuff was how I worked in kitchens. And that's probably enough said about that. I think it's real interesting too is that it seems like this immersion in the outdoors, this immersion in hunting, this like finding proficiency in those spaces has kind of taken you out of some of maybe like some of the more deleterious aspects of that like kitchen lifestyle. And like we've been talking about it this weekend, like kind of like allowed you to like take a breath and a step back and to breathe and to like make a very deep-seated analysis of what you value and who you want to be and how you want to interact with the world around you. It's not really a question there. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Just to be clear, the restaurant industry is definitely not glamorous, and it's definitely, I do regret a lot of things I did to get things done, and I think that led to where I am now, which is, I love being outside and I love the perspective it's given me, and I love, like this lifestyle and this like mindfulness that I've kind of acquired over time. And it's like I was able to step back and like, what parts of this previous career did I actually enjoy? Like I didn't enjoy getting up and working 18-hour days, 7 days a week. Like nobody enjoys that. Like anybody tells you they enjoy that is lying, and but at the problem solving, the creative aspect, like all this stuff that like we like to do now, it's like we're going to go figure out this species. We're going to figure out how to make this food. How do we tweak this? Like all that part, it's like trial and error and failure. There's a lot of failure. Hunting is mostly failure. Like only like 1% of hunting is pulling the trigger. It's like it's all the other work that goes into it, and like the prep work really. It's like that's the stuff that I was like always proud of, and it feels good to be doing something that you're proud of and that you pour your heart into and you're passionate about. Like you can feel that when you walk into your place. It's like this is you. Like this is not that I think a innate object like a house could be a person, but like it is very much a representation of what you value and how you view hunting and how you view the world and how you view people and relationships. And you can feel that. It's awesome. Like it's good to be around, people that have different perspectives, but also like know how to be who they are. Like I don't know, I'm kind of rambling now, but.
No, man, I take that as high praise, and I really appreciate that. Because, yeah, it is. It's like Cromwellian, like warts and all kind of a deal. Like Douglas, this dude that was here yesterday that hunted for one day and had a boogie back to Kansas City, he was asking me, like, what do you see, what do you think about when you see this place? And I was like, I see everything that's, like, wrong. I see everything that I could have done better. And part of this is like me getting to be all right with that, like me being all right with the fact that, these buildings were the best I could do at the time that I did them, and that they're a work in progress. And, like, so am I. Like, I'm trying to present like the best version of myself that I'm possible, that it's possible for me to execute at any given time. But hopefully if I'm doing that well, very shortly after that, I'm bothered by how I presented previously, right? I think that's kind of like the idea of like an upward trajectory and like growth and personal exploration and all that stuff. So like how exactly is Elevated Wild set up? Because like I know that like Wade left his career like as an exec, and you're doing this kind of sort of full-time, part-time, and then Rachel, you have a career in like an outside sector, like a more kind of traditional career path, but like you're still very much involved in this. So yeah, how is this balancing act kind of set up, and how do you all approach it?
They always say like you shouldn't ever date your coworkers, and I think that's generally really good advice. Wade and I, the back of house, front of house thing that you alluded to earlier. I think there's actually some merit to that. And I think that the one thing that I've taken away from our time working together in restaurants is that we do really well working together. And that's something that not every couple has. And so when we decided to launch Elevated Wild, it was always an understanding that Wade would take the forefront of the recipe development. But I mean, I'm a very good cook as well, and I do help him with the recipe development. And some of what you'll see on the website are my recipes. And so I have a hand in some of the creative aspect of it. But I built the website. Wade does all the photography. I do all the proofreading. Wade does the bulk of the writing, but I do some of the writing as well. And so we each just kind of play to our strengths as far as, what we're capable of doing, where we want to stretch, and who's going to be best able to handle that with the, amount of time that we have available to us.
Yeah, I mean, here's an example from the time we worked together. Like, you don't send me out to talk to a table that's upset about something. You send Rachel. Like,
I can get that, yeah.
She'll smooth it out.
You'll be out there breaking ribs in the back alley, yeah. Dude, you know what I loved about that answer from you, Rachel, was you said, I'm a very good cook as well, which is, it's kind of indicative of like something I sensed like the first time like we spoke on the phone, because I don't even know like how I had the chutzpah to do this, but somehow like a couple years ago I was like, I want to talk to you on the phone, Wade, and then I was like, I want to talk to you on the phone, Rachel. And I remember going back to my wife, Marianne, after I talked to Rachel, and I was like, this lady's got a super like tangibly powerful voice. Like, she could make me do things because her voice like carries weight. And I love that you didn't play into like this kind of false humility and this like I'm supposed to take this feminine background step to Wade, who had this maybe like more legitimizing job in the culinary sector. You're like, I'm a damn good cook as well, and like some of this stuff is me as well.
No,
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's hard to come by. I will say that. That's something I'm always working on. It's not the way I was socialized. It's not the way that the culture tends to reward women, being assertive, kind of owning your own accomplishments. And it's something that I've really had to work at to get to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm good at cooking. Like, deal with it. It's okay. But thank you. I'm glad that you did not find that off-putting.
No. It's not off-putting at all. It's, and we kind of talked about this the other day, like, and I feel very much like this in my marriage and, my like long-standing relationship that, like I'm not, I think I'm probably like simultaneously like, enamored with and frightened by like really strong women, but like in either way, it's like it's a motivating factor in my life, like I'm married to like an incredibly powerful lady, who, and selfishly, like I probably use as like a point of motivation, in some ways, like maybe I couldn't be better for myself all the time, but like I don't have a choice but to be better than I was if I want her to stick around with me, So, and shit, man, like this space, it's obviously, it's like, it's the power structure is masculine, and I think that is also oftentimes a point of weakness because like you guys were talking about at the very beginning of this, it's a lack of perspective. Like when we were driving out to the field today, we were doing some duck hunting this morning, and Rachel, you were talking about perceptions of women in the outdoor space, and you really brought to light something I didn't think about, like, because you were talking about this idea that like girls get cold. And I realized when you were talking about it, like I kind of think that, like I think I'm kind of conditioned to think that like girls are like, I'm cold. And I'd love if you don't mind like kind of repeating that explanation for that, because it really gave me a lot of room to think about something that I hadn't thought about before. As far as like what women's clothing is like.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I did not grow up in an outdoor space. We'd go camping occasionally, but that was pretty much it. And the first couple times that I went out with Wade in the field, I was so uncomfortable. And the only thing that got me through it was me just being stubborn as hell and not wanting to show weakness. But the thing was, I was going out in a pair of blue jeans. And I assume that your listenership is mostly male, but they might not be. So I'm sorry, ladies, I'm going to have to explain this to the guys, which is that women's jeans are very different from men's jeans. They're stretchy, they're elastic, they're not really like this tough, resilient denim. It's like
no pockets.
Yeah, no pockets, no nothing. So you're walking through a bunch of briars, and these things are digging into your skin, right? They're letting all the wind through. There's nothing to them. It's like you're wearing tissue paper. And same with even just wearing a pair of ballet flats to go to the grocery store. If it's cold out, your feet are numb. And so if your day-to-day existence, running errands, going to work, being cold at the office, you're always cold, you're always uncomfortable. And so, you look at going duck hunting and you're like, why would I ever voluntarily sign up to go outside in 20-degree weather when I'm freezing my ass off at 70 degrees in the office? But I think that what a lot of people don't realize is that women's clothing across the board is just trash. It's, polyester, it's, all these synthetic blends that are not designed to keep you warm, keep you comfortable. And so I think that a lot of women are very turned off to the idea of spending time in the outdoors because they can't imagine being happy, being any more uncomfortable than they already are. And it doesn't help that up until very recently, there was almost no outdoor gear tailored to women that was worth a damn. I mean, I spent my first couple years out in the field thinking that it was completely normal to be numb from the knees down every time I went out. Like, no matter what. I was wearing a youth extra large pair of bibs and a pair of uninsulated work boots from Harbor Freight. And I was like, well, this is as good as it can get. And the only reason I stuck it out is because, like I said, I'm really stubborn and I really wanted to do this. But if you have a woman in your life that's kind of on the fence or maybe a little bit interested in going out, but, you're worried that she's going to be uncomfortable, or she's voiced a concern about being uncomfortable, you know, you have to realize that a lot of that comes from our daily lived experience of being uncomfortable. And, you know, I'm not shilling for anything, but having actual gear has completely changed my experience in the outdoors. And it's only been in the past couple years that you've been able to even find that. So when you're talking about women in the outdoors and recruiting women into the hunting sphere, you have to really consider that up until very, very recently, you were asking a lot more of the ladies than you were of the men when you asked them to go out in the duck blind. Just full stop.
Yeah, that's it is, even like with all the talking about like my, whatever, my unique perspective in the space, like, yeah, that's something I hadn't really considered. And it was, I'll tell you what else was cool about it is like my initial reaction was I wanted to almost like make a comment to like, I don't know, I guess probably like minimize that a little bit. Like, oh no, it's not. And then I was like, dude, shut the hell up and listen. And it's like, well, yeah, that makes total sense. Like, I mean, there's like even a thing on like TikTok and Instagram about like, that dresses don't have pockets. Like just the lack of utilitarianism that you're talking about with like women's clothing. Yeah, I think it's something to consider, and it's kind of, it's a perspective adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same initial like kind of defensive reaction you did when Rachel explained this to me years ago. I was like, well, it's not my fault, but like I didn't understand it. It's like women's clothing, day to day is designed for form over function. I can wear a hoodie, lined, thick pants during the winter and boots, and it's like I look normal. That's like expected of me to be functional and comfortable. Mm-hmm. But like you look at what Rachel has to wear to work, or most women have to wear around. And it's like that's like silk weight. It's like super thin, lightweight gear. It's not designed to take briars, be in the rain, be in the cold. It's like you're supposed to look good first. Comfort is just something that we don't even consider. It's like it's not something that's valued. And like I said, I was like, it's not my fault. It's easy, I think, to be dismissive of something that you don't understand because like you realize it's a problem and like you've not been helping it. But it is what it is, and the best thing you can do is just like kind of listen to it and take it in from somebody else's perspective. Like we grew up, all of us here had very different upbringings, and like listening to each other's different perspectives, like sometimes it's like a little jarring. I'm like, well, that's not my experience. But listening thoroughly and like trying to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, like that's where that's where all my personal growth has come from. Just having conversations and listening to people who have different views than me. Because if I just listened to myself, or I was in an echo chamber and I just looked for people that told me what I wanted to hear, I'd be right all the time and I wouldn't change at all, right?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to dance around this like alternate facts kind of thing, but like truth is kind of relative and a matter of perspective in some ways. Like we were talking about earlier, like the difference in our experiences with like certain authority figures, right? Yeah. I'm trying not to alienate people. And it's like my truth on that is different than your truth, And yeah,
it doesn't mean one of us is right and one of us is wrong. It's just we have different experiences, and I think you take it with that. It's like in this very narrow context of me being me, this is my life experience, and then your life, it's been different, like, and I don't know. I think it's easy for people to just lump things into groups like duck hunters do this, these people do that. Cooks do this, front house does this, back house does this. And it's like, we're all people. We all have very different perspectives, very different upbringings, very different life experiences. Like today, for example, like, Actually, I guess it was yesterday morning we were hunting. You were like, this is a pretty frustrating duck hunt. And I was like, dude, I've never seen this many birds in my life. Like this, this is something, if you saw this in Virginia where we're hunting, you'd shit yourself. Like this does not happen. Just pintails everywhere, birds dumping in, just there was never a point in time the entire day, even when we were packing up, where there were not birds swinging around somewhere pretty close by in earshot of a call. It was like, after 30 minutes in the marsh where we hunt, it's like we can stick it out and there might be a loner bird circling around, but like it's over. You got 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and sometimes you shoot a couple birds and that's a pretty good day. But out here it's like, I'm sure it's not like this all the time, but man, like what you thought was tough, late season, possibly mediocre, is just unimaginable, from my perspective. And we were just duck hunting last week. It was like a pretty good day. We saw birds for like 45 minutes,
Exceptional day.
Yeah, I was texting everybody. I was like, man, dude, there were birds working all the way until like 8 o'clock. Nuts.
Yeah. No, I mean, and to be fair, part of that is, man, it's a really different experience to try and be providing good hunts for people.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like the pressure, like last year was kind of like the first year I was doing it, man, and it really messed with me because like the effort to have a mediocre hunt is not any different than the effort to have a really great hunt. Like honestly, a really great hunt's easier. But like you're trying to manage people's expectations and you want people to have a really good experience. And, especially people are like, they're giving you their hard-earned money. And so you want to give them value and like a good return on it. And, part of that, and look, this whole thing has been built out purposely to where hopefully there's enough value in all the other things that people experience when they come to Black Duck Revival that, if we didn't get full limits one day, that they still see it as like a worthy expenditure of energy. But yeah, man, I'm stoked to hear that because sometimes I forget that. Like I remember starting and just being stoked if I got like one bird. If I killed one bird and my dog picked it up, it was worth driving an hour and a half and walking through briars and doing all that stuff. And that's a really good attitude adjustment or a perspective adjustment for me because I don't want to lose that. I don't want to start thinking that like wood ducks are second best to mallards and that it only matters if you can put these big stringers of birds up.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this all weekend, but like I think it helps. It's healthy. I would say that to just step back and be like, does this make me happy? Would I be happy without these other external pressures, right? Like if I was just doing this and there was no money on the line, these are my friends. Like any day I'm hunting with my friends is a good day. I don't know how many hunts we've gone on in the years where it's like there's not a shot fired. We're just like we just spend 4 hours in a marsh eating donuts, drinking coffee, and just spilling our guts. It's like I would do it again. Like the expectation is not I need stringers, of greenheads. I need this to prove that I'm doing this. It's like, am I having a good time? Am I having fun? Am I enjoying myself? And it's like, it's easy, I think, to lose perspective. Lifestyles inflate, expectations inflate. And I think it's just healthy to take a step back and be like, am I stoked? Like, am I still stoked on what I'm doing? Whatever it is. And it's like, I don't want to do things I'm not excited about. Like, we both, we left the restaurant industry because we weren't stoked on it anymore. It was like, it became unfun. It became unbearable, really. But we're doing something that we want to do now. And I don't know, that feels good. Like it's just, whether it succeeds or fails, or, we don't even know what the end goal is. It's just like, we like doing it. You should do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important, is that like you're defining success as like you're defining success as finding satisfaction in like the day to day. You know, like I do think it's important to try and, you know, have some long term kind of goals, or like have something to be striving
Oh no,
towards.
I'm not saying you that's not a good idea. And I think having a plan, having a goal is, you know, that's the best way to get to what you want, right? It's like, hey, if I do this and do this, I'll get to where I want to be. But, you know, I think, you know, I think we both, all of us here, you know, we're pretty critical of ourselves. You know, it's easy to just be like, I could be doing better, you know, like.
Yeah, we talked yesterday about like the crippling self-doubt.
Yeah, no, like, you know, like I could be, you know, I don't know how many years I watched people eat and I made food for them, and for every 1,000 positive reviews or, you know, compliments, you know, you get one negative one, and that's the one you think about. You know, like that's the one that, like, you know, we'll put out. I remember, you know, restaurant week, we put out like 300 plates in like 3 hours in a kitchen that's smaller than this kitchen. You know, it's like a 10 by 10 box. Everybody's coming by, great meal, blah, blah, blah. But then one person goes on Yelp and writes a negative review, and then that's the one I hear about first. And that's the one that I'm dwelling on all week. You know, it's like, and you just got to step back and be like, 99% of people had a great time and they went out of their way to say so. You know, like everything went smooth, but like you can't just focus on the negative things and like the things that are wrong all the time. It's like, it's a messy place to be, you know, like we've all been there.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I don't really have like an elegant pivot for this, but it's something I was thinking about like 3 minutes ago, and I don't want to lose it. And so I think this point of connection that maybe we all share is kind of like an intention-based way of living, or an attempt at an intention-based way of living. And man, if you're cool with it, I'd love to kind of just explore a little bit, because we're talking about like these differing perspectives and like coming from different places. And it seems like Wade, your approach to life has been, you know, pretty succinctly influenced, you know, like all of us are, like by our parents, right? And your parents were immigrants. Your parents were first generation Americans. And like you've talked to, I hope I'm not exposing too much, but like you've talked, you know, like kind of throughout the weekend about how there was this, you know, this kind of like high demand on like a certain kind of perceived success. And even though you went a different path, I'm just struck by like that work ethic seems like it permeates throughout you, you know, and it's especially well served towards like a kitchen environment, and also could lead to like I don't know what you call it, a perversion of it, or just like taking it too far, and like that lack of perspective.
Yeah, no, it's this like, it's the, you know, you could always do better kind of like upbringing, right? So no matter what, is like there was a goal, and until you got to that goal, it wasn't enough. You know, it was like I needed to be a doctor or a lawyer or some sort of other high-paying white-collar job to define success. You know, it was very much like the classic first-generation Asian parenting style. You know, it was like, you need good grades, you need to go to college, you need to go to grad school, you need to get a good job, you need to make a lot of money, and then you could relax and be happy, right? And it's like there was not a lot of focus on like what makes you actually happy. And I didn't know what makes me happy. Like I know what makes me happy right now, but like it was just like work.
What makes you happy right now?
Hunting, fishing, Rachel, like meeting people, having conversations like this. Honestly, like my whole life was, until fairly recently, was just like keep pushing yourself as hard as you can to get to the next spot, so you can get to the next spot, so you can get to the next spot, whatever that may be, you know, income-wise, accolades, whatever, you know. And there was not a lot of focus on like, do you like getting up in the morning? You know, like are you sick for it? You know, like do you want to get up and do the day Like, it was always, in the future, things will be good if you just grind it out now. And, like, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of things that I took from that parenting style that, like, worked out great. You know, like, I do have a good work ethic. Like, I'll grind it out as hard as anybody else. And I am really good at problem solving. You know, like, that was most of my job, is like managing people, solving problems. Like, the creative part was fun. I love it. But, like, to be real, like, restaurant work is mostly managing misfits. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
how do I, it's like, where is this person's not here? It's like, well, call their girlfriend. They're not there. Call the jail, call the hospital. You know, it's like, those are the three places they're going to be, right? It's like, you know, like, that's the honest truth. Like, that's the order of operation.
Dude, you're kind of making me feel like a little bit nostalgic.
I mean, it's better when you look back on it than when you're in
Dude,
it. That's
definitely.
for sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I had a lot of great experiences. I met some people that are near and dear to me. Like, a handful of people I'm glad I met, because I would have never met them outside of that environment.
You met some scumbags though too, didn't you?
No, it gave me a very jaded view on people. You know, like, I don't want to get too deep into it, but
sure.
Like, it's a rough place, you know, and it's an industry that eats itself. You know, like, it's just, you treat people like they're temporary, and they treat you like you're temporary, and it just that's the cycle. You know, I think it's changing a lot now. I'm glad I'm not part of it, but I like seeing the change that's happening. You know, like, people are being held accountable. People are being treated like people. You know, they're not just hot, warm bodies that you can just use up and throw away. You know, it's like, these are people. They're real. They're like you. You know, like, I think when people treat people like themselves, like, it's like the most, like, basic human lesson. It's like, treat people the way you want to be treated, right? And it's, like, pretty simple. Like, I wouldn't want somebody to treat me the way I treated some people back in the day. Like, I'll admit that. Like, I had to be pretty brutal. It was not fun.
Yeah. So, like, I think kind of what we're approaching too is that there's, you know, hunting is a weird thing because, I mean, we're sitting here waxing poetic about all this stuff, and like, I think we're probably all finding, you know, simultaneously, like, strength and peace in an inherently, like, violent enterprise. You know, like, it's which actually is really appealing to me because I love a good juxtaposition, you know? And, you know, like hunting ducks the last couple of days, you know, like, I understand why someone wouldn't get it. I understand why someone wouldn't think it's, like, beautiful and romantic and poetic, but that's how I see it. Like, you were talking about, like, that you felt like you got a glimpse of who I was, like, with me running a call, you know, because that is, like, and I hadn't really thought about that before, but I think that's super true, you know, like I played music for a long time, and I feel like running a call is kind of the same way. Like, you get into it, you're interacting with these living creatures, in an incredibly intimate way, and I'm not thinking about all that other shit, you know. I'm thinking about, like, the rhythm of the dugga 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 dugga, you know, and I'm just having, like, a visceral excitement when, like, I break them and they turn on corners, you know, and I'm like, oh, they're coming, get ready, and there's almost like this, you know, I can even get kind of pushy with it. You know, like, get a gun in your hand. You know, it's like I'm kind of barking at people a little bit sometimes because I'm just so enamored with the whole process of it. And then them almost doing it and then not doing it 5 times in a row, it makes that 6th time when they do it like magic. It's like you finally got your wand to work, and, you know, you abracadabraed it. And it, like I said, you know, you're killing something, but there's it's kind of like this meditative moment. And then I think a lot of it is how you approach it. Like, you can approach it as dominion over something and domination over something, or you can approach it as being part of something. And it's I think it's obviously it involves food, but it's super analogous to food. Like, you can be in a restaurant environment that's incredibly toxic, and it can be that, like, I've never yes chefed anybody in my life, but like that militaristic, like you're gonna break somebody down to turn them into what you want them to be, or it's like grandma's chicken and dumplings, because there's nothing in that but like love and emotion and connection, and those are the meals that you remember.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I think anybody that has a craft or a passion that they share with others, like I think if they're truly passionate about it, it comes through. Like I love cooking for friends. Like that's like I like cooking for friends more than I like cooking for myself. I mean, honestly, like if I'm just cooking for myself, like Rachel's out doing something and that's just me, and I'm like, I'll heat up some leftovers, I'll eat some ramen.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, I'm gonna try to get some work done and just like eat because I have to eat, right? But like sharing my experiences and my story and like how I feel. If I'm feeling good, the food's pretty elaborate. If I'm feeling rough, it's like I'm gonna put this 7-Eleven burrito in the microwave on like 9 and just like destroy it. It's just like I'm gonna hurt myself. There's a that passion just like it just bleeds out into things that you do that you care about, and I think the people around you, if they know you or they can feel that. I don't know. Like I like seeing people in their element doing the thing they love to do, whatever it is, even if I'm not all that interested in it or like have no interest in doing it myself. Like people talking about their experiences in a way where like they let their guard down and they're like, I was stoked on this. I'm excited about this. And I think, back to the restaurant thing is like I was stoked on cooking food. We were both pretty into food for the longest time.
Well, we still are.
Yeah, we are. But like, it's like when you have to worry about like, am I going to get a bad Yelp review? Is this person like their food? Are they upset? Like it just, like you were saying, like you get kind of worked up about like, hey, am I providing a quality experience? Am I meeting their expectations? It's like you kind of get in your own way and you just kind of make it unfun. Like the first couple of years, I was working in a restaurant. I was like, dude, this is great. Like I have full control over everything. I can do whatever I want. I can order whatever I want and cook whatever I want. My buddies, he's like, dude, you got somebody else's dream job. I'm like, you're right. Like it was just like, it was great until I had to worry about, the bottom line, other employees, the reviews, whatever, like all the other external factors I wasn't doing. It wasn't just for me anymore. And it wasn't just like, am I having fun? Am I enjoying it? It was like, this is for somebody else now. And I don't know, I don't want to get to that point ever again. Like whatever I do, whatever I end up doing, who knows? I mean, maybe tomorrow I start writing vegan cookbooks, like I want it to be like me and I want to be excited about it. I don't want to just do it because I have to do it.
Yeah. And I think it's easy to look at like a sentiment like that and then think about it being like, that's a point of privilege. Like I don't have that option. I've got a bottom line I got to make, like we're talking about that. Like we all, I mean, none of us are fully making our living in this space. We're all doing other things to like provide and put food on the table and take care of the people, like ourselves and the people that we're responsible for. But, no, I'll take that back. Like it is such a distinct privilege to get to try and build a life that you're proud of and you're happy with. And I think like the struggle in that, and I'll speak for myself, that maybe the hardest part of that is being able to be happy with it. Like just to be able to enjoy the quiet moments and to, just be content. I think to me, that's what I think happy is something else. Like, like I strive for contentment. I strive just to be at peace with myself. And I think that's what like the woods and the water have helped me maybe get a little bit of a handle on is because I'm not worried about, most of the time, I'm not worried about other people. I'm just existing, and to exist is inherently natural, and it connects you to every sentient being that's ever been in this place. And yeah, I think there's like peace and contentment to that. And yeah, I do lament and struggle with balancing that, especially as like you become more visible or people are looking to you for guidance or something. And if you want to be able to provide that for people, like you've got to be all right with yourself, and you've got to find your little slice of contentment. So we're talking about food a whole bunch, and I've been super kind of touched by the meals that we've had this weekend. Rachel, what do you think? Like, do you mind describing a little bit some of the food that we've eaten, and just, I don't know, maybe just like describe the food we've eaten a little bit, and I bet it'll make some cool stuff come out.
Oh, man. So let's see. We got here on Friday.
Yep.
And that was your elk that you just dragged out of the mountains the other day. That backstrap.
Yeah, with help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. There's a lot of Jonathan sweat involved in the procurement of that elk for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, that was in your truck. What, hours earlier? Days earlier?
Oh no, I like went and pulled it out of the cooler and then like rinsed it off and patted it dry.
Yeah.
And stuck it on that smoker that me and my buddy made.
Yeah. So I mean.
Yeah, that was a hell of a welcome. You're like, I gotta go to the cooler. You can give me a hand. I was like, just pulling elk back straps out of this cooler out of the back of the truck, and I'm like, I just met this guy. This is great.
Yeah. No, and the greens and beans.
Yeah. Decidedly Arkansas.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, that was incredible. It was so nice. Like when you come into a new place and to eat something that is definitively of that place, right? Mm-hmm. Not that the elk is, but the elk is your elk. And it's, it's something that you have brought to the table through your own effort. And then, the peas and the greens and just everything about walking into a place that smells incredible, that already feels like home, with somebody that you've never met, but who already feels like a friend. And, you have all of these elements in place on the table, right? And, to be able to come into that was just a really wonderful, welcoming way to come into the weekend. And then, yesterday we had pho for dinner, and we brought that up. Wade and I can every year a lot of stock and broth. And so what we do kind of is like a convenience food for us is we'll can pho broth. So we brought some of that up. And so we had kind of our Arkansas Vietnamese dinner last night.
Yeah, with like braised Canada goose, like legs and thighs.
Yeah.
And like Wade just like really quickly seared the outside of a Canada goose breast, and then like sliced it up rare, and then like put it in the deal, and put that hot broth on it. And yeah, it's all been like comfort food, right?
Oh yeah.
It's all been stuff that, like probably reminds us of somebody we really care about, or like some important memory.
Yeah, no, I think food is extremely expressive, and like, don't get me wrong, when you're like, hey, everybody's going to chip in a little bit on the food and bring stuff, and I was like, all right, cool, absolutely, right? But I'm like, what am I going to bring? I'm like, all right, maybe some crown roast, like make some like demi-glace and like get real fancy on that. And I was like, you know what, like, I want to bring what I want to eat and what I want to share,
Wait, no, keep it real, dog, because you've had this like charcuterie deal that's next level.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I already had that made, so like I just had to pack that up. You usually see the fridge at home; it's ridiculous. It's just full of meat that's been cured. But like I wanted to like, we're meeting for the first time. I'm meeting, Martin and Douglas. I met them for the first time too, this weekend, and it's like, what do I want to bring? It's like, well, it's gonna be cold. Hot food sounds good. I've never had a bad bowl of pho, like anytime. no matter where I got it. And like, I think it's pretty representative of me and Rachel. It's like, this is what we like to eat. This is how I grew up eating. Those are some of the best meals I had growing up. It's like eating pho that my mom made. Like,
did those Canadas come from like George Washington's farm kind of deal?
Yeah,
Yep.
no, it came from the place we hunted. Like that broth is made with ducks and geese that we shot on, off of creeks off the Potomac. It's like where we hunt. Like brought what we have from where we're from here to share with you. And like,
dude, that's super duper special, man.
Yeah, but like it all clicked, but like I didn't like go through that whole stream of thought before I did it. I wasn't like, all right, what's
Well,
like
it's instinctive.
Well, yeah, but like it's not like, oh, what's the terroir that I'm trying to bring to Arkansas? Like I didn't make a replica of our kitchen table, like to serve all this stuff on.
Yeah, but I think that when you bring your authentic self, you also bring your authentic story. And I think that, by bringing the pho, which is something that we eat all the time at home, that is kind of, bringing everybody's stories here together was kind of the thing that we did this weekend, right? I mean, everybody here at the revival, everybody's got their own story. You invited some very cool people, us excluded, of course,
No, it's like, I keep talking about curating stuff, dude. Like the revival it's in some ways like an inherently selfish enterprise, because I'm just like, how can I get people that I think are cool to hang out with me? I'm like, I'll give them a fucking free, I probably shouldn't have said the F word. I'll give them a free hunt. You know what I mean? Like, people will probably show up to Arkansas to shoot greenheads, and then I get to hang out and talk to and eat with and just like kick it with people that I think are rad.
Well, to be fair, I think Martin's pastries like definitely paid for itself.
Next level, dude.
Ridiculous. Like, this guy's just casually walking around coming out with like the nicest pastries I've ever seen. Just like magically making them appear
in duck camp.
Yeah, like Japanese milk bread danishes with like whiskey infused cream and spiced pears and like
glaze.
Yeah, I mean, and look, and to be fair, like that's an inherently selfish enterprise too, because I didn't invite someone from Mima's Bakery. Like I invited arguably like one of the most. I think it'd probably be fair to say, man, that he's probably one of the more influential bakers in America right now. If you look at his platform and like his work with King Arthur, and his authorship and like his work like on the world baking scene. So yeah, like I was in the back of my head, I was like, man, I want some biscuits from this dude.
Yeah. But you mentioned selfish, and I think that selfishness gets a bad rap, right? It's like, that means you're not caring about other people. It's just kind of like the implication. But everything we do is selfish, right? Like even if it is selfless to some degree, it's like, hey, hunting is conservation. Like I'm helping the poor, I'm helping the homeless, I'm volunteering, all this stuff. It's like you're doing it because it feels good to you, because those are your values, right? And it's like everything we do is selfish to some degree. Like hunting, is selfish. You do it because you love doing it, And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. I think you got to look after yourself. It doesn't mean putting yourself before everybody else. It's not one or the other, but it's like you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else.
Yeah, and if that means surrounding yourself with people that you think are really interesting, then by all means, right? Sure.
Yeah, no, that's a great perspective. Yeah, Wade, you said something when we were like putting waiters on this morning. You were like, that like, and I'm paraphrasing here, and feel free to correct me, but it's like, life is about building these concentric circles, right? So it's like inherently has to be like based in the I. Yeah. And then it's based around like, who do I love? And like, who do I care about? And who do I feel some responsibility to? You know what I mean? And then those circles keep, it's just like, ripple effects, throwing a stone into a pond, and pretty soon the entire thing is affected, but it started with this one point of contact. Man, yeah, we've gone on a decidedly romantic route with all of this that I'm into, man. Like it's I mean, if I'm being selfish, like I would like the hunting space to be a little bit more like this because then I think it would be I think that more people and maybe it's like I feel like more people would understand and appreciate what I think I'm starting to understand and appreciate about it. Is that yeah, this is we talk a lot about like hunting and the connection of food. I think it's even beyond that. It's like a quest for connection, right? Connection of self, connection to the world around you, and connection of people. Like, I've got a friend that says that no one would hunt if it wasn't for the stories, right? Like, what's kind of the raddest thing? Like after you finish a hunt, like you get to tell stories and you get to share that meat with people that you care about. Like you won't ever give that meat to anybody that you think is a dirtbag.
Oh, absolutely. And I read a book, and I wish I could recall the title right now, but it was about it was an older man telling the story about his son coming of age and coming into the hunting sphere. It was an older book, and in it he describes his son returning from his first hunt without his dad and coming back to camp, and he calls it song feast. Is when all the different hunters come back around the fire and they're telling their story of their day, and it comes before dinner as the song feast. And everybody feasts on each other's stories and how meaningful that was to that particular hunting camp to have song feast, right? And I think that like when we talk about food as a means of connection, I think that a lot of times we're kind of obliquely skirting the hunting as tradition narrative, because that's been something that's been used for a really long time as, hunting is tradition, hunting is heritage, right? And it is for a lot of folks, but it's not for everybody, right? Like hunting is not heritage or tradition for Wade or I. And so it's never been a selling point for us, right? But the further we get into the hunting community, as much as it's the food that drew us in, it's the community that's keeping us here. And the connections that we've made with other hunters and, people adjacent to the hunting sphere, it's been a incredibly rewarding aspect of our lives that we would have never come to without getting into hunting. The people that we've met, the experiences that we've had with them. And I feel like getting back to why we do Elevated Wild and what we do, it is almost kind of like our song feast. We get to come back and kind of show everybody what we've been up to, and we get to meet really incredible people like you, through the work that we do. And it's been something that's been transformative. And so, it almost seems like, mentally to me, it almost seems like sacrilege to say hunting is about community, because it was very far from how I got into it. Mm-hmm. But I think the longer you spend in this community, the more you realize that the food is a part of the community, but the food isn't all of it.
Yeah. And, to add on to that just a little bit, like that sense of place and connectedness to the land and the animals and like everything else, like we love places that we would have never been otherwise, like we've seen things that we would have never seen otherwise. And like, it just makes you feel, it makes me, I can't speak for anybody else, it makes me feel more at home the more I do all of this. It's like I just feel like I belong here doing this with these people and just building these relationships with the land and the people. And like just there's a real sense of like connectedness and belonging, and like it kind of scrubs away some of that crippling self-doubt, that years of years of grinding away have accumulated.
Well, and this is like the first year that I've ever traveled to hunt. This is I guess now I'm in 2022, but like the last year, the first time I ever left Arkansas to hunt. And I've gotten to do quite a bit of it actually. And it's like simultaneously made the world bigger. Like it's made my world bigger, and it's also convinced me that it's really like smaller, because like everywhere I go, I mean, we've joked about like these summer camp vibes, right? Like you meet somebody, you have these like really intense conversations, and you like feel like you really, really get to know them in a really short amount of time. And like that kind of always happens. And then that connection, that intimacy then gets transferred to like the next relationship, you know? So like that elk that I killed in Utah, like I had this super kind of transformative and transmogrifying experience with this really awesome dude that like I was friends with and buddies with, and then like I left and he was like the homie, right? And then that energy, and I'm really not trying to be too precious about this, but like I think there's a really tangible, tactile transfer of energy and intention and emotion from that, like through that backstrap, putting it on that big thing that looks like a steam engine in the back of Black Duck Revival, that me and this dude that I've known for 20 years built together, you know? And it's like, so I'm taking something from Little Rock to North Carolina, back to Little Rock, out to Utah, back to Brinkley, and like folks are coming from Vermont and Kansas City and Virginia, and it's all culminating in just something so simple, like a shared meal, like meat cooked with fire and beans and collard greens, right? And then 48 hours later, you've had these experiences, and you've seen like the sun glistening off all these birds' wings flapping around, right? And you've like heard these like percussive, repetitious calls. You know, we've talked about like how like calling ducks here is different than calling other places, you know, and like, and then you even see like the dudes I'm hunting with and like the relationships I've built with those guys, and how like it started as one thing and now it's like me being friends with this dude from like Baton Rouge, who's like built his entire life around hunting speckled-bellied geese. And it's special, and it is romantic, and it is precious, and it is killing, and it is dirty, and it, you know, there's eyeballs and all sorts of weird stuff. Just like everything's kind of hanging out, and you kind of get to be all right with that. And like, man, what a place it would be if we were just kind of all right with just stuff hanging out, you know?
Absolutely.
Well, since we're recording it, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to make this happen. We've discussed Beaverfest 2022 in Virginia later on next month. If I can get the okay from my incredibly patient and amazing wife, I'm going to come to Virginia, and we're going to get on these beavers. Man, we actually before. So anyway, I'm talking about this because like Wade and Rachel have become like these experts in trapping beavers in Virginia, and they're putting up like big numbers. Like, how many did y'all say you got last year?
I don't know. They're like big numbers. I trapped as many as I would want to skin in a year.
I mean, could you fill up the bed of a truck with as many beavers as you caught?
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot, right? And I'm so into it because it's something that people treat so derisively and like act like they have no worth. And I mean, you know, the Western expansion of North America is based around these animals. They're amazing, and they taste really good. Yeah. So if we could, I had you do it on video the other day, man, but this is in reference to it, man. Like, describe some of that charcuterie that you bought, because like we were in there a couple hours ago, like after this fun hunt, like eating Ritz crackers and Cracker Barrel cheese, and then like the most amazing cured meats I've ever had in my life, and some of it was beaver meat.
Yeah. So we had like a beaver Lebanon bologna. It's a traditional fermented smoked salami, you know, like Pennsylvania Dutch style. Venison summer sausage, also fermented, dry cured, you know, cold smoked. Then I brought the venison copa. It's a venison and pork fat that's been kind of fused together over time. You know, there's, again, just these are all like salt fermented, dry cured products. The beaver prosciutto, which hung for about a year and then equalized for another 6-9 months. That's pretty.
What does that mean, equalized?
So like, I basically vac seal it and throw it in the fridge so that the moisture content can evenly distribute itself.
Okay.
Because the outside, it's going to get more air exposure. It's going to be a little drier than the inside potentially. You don't really know until you kind of slice it open. I just usually play it safe. So like the idea of like waiting a year and a half to try something was like not really on my radar, a long time ago. Like I needed things done in seconds and minutes. Like that was kind of like I need to just forget about this project thing. But what else do we have? We had the venison land Jaeger, and there's one more, right?
Do you have a sopressata?
Yeah, the Cicadeer sopressata. That's like a softer style. Again, fermented salami, very light on the spices. That was probably off of Rachel's first Cicadeer. It's just like you just let the meat speak for itself. It's just like that's what that animal tastes like when you put it, in a fermentation stage for a while and let it hang.
And dude, that's worth actually touching on real quick before we wrap stuff up. Like that, like Rachel's become like, the Cicadeer whisperer, and you're talking about like this little elk from Japan that's running around the marshlands of like Virginia and Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and these are like that was another point of connection. Is like like you're describing yourself as like a marsh person, and I'm very much a bayou person, and these are both places where like the land meets the water and kind of like flattens out, right? But like I've seen some videos and such on it. Like that seems like really hard hunting.
Yeah, it's not easy, but like a lot of things that are hard, it's completely and totally worth it. I think that the Sika hunting is probably my favorite thing that we do all year. And, we go out there lately we've been spending a whole week renting a house, doing the whole thing. And it's beautiful country. I know everybody, there's a lot of folks in love with the mountains. I'm a marsh person, and we've been talking about it all weekend. But I love the stark beauty of the marsh. I love the pines. I love everything about this transitional zone that is just so rich with life. And then, where we are, real close to where we are, we have a imported population of Sika deer that have been running wild since the 1920s, and they're huntable. And hunting them is really, it's something that I don't know that there's anything else quite like it on earth, just because of the location that they're at. You can hear the Atlantic Ocean crashing on the beach from your tree stand overlooking a marsh. You're watching all these migratory waterfowl move up and down the coast, and you're hearing these tiny little elk bugling. And they call them marsh ghosts. And is
it like a high pitched bugle?
Oh yeah, it's like this really eerie shriek, and it's piercing. And unless they're right up on top of you, it always sounds like they're kind of far away.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like it's coming through time rather than space, if that makes sense. Like you're hearing it from like a
something
different.
To say, yeah.
It's a very eerie sound, and they're very nocturnal. You very rarely see them during the day, and they're just gorgeous creatures. They're adaptable. They're incredibly rugged and resilient. And being able to hunt them in this very liminal zone, right? I mean, you're between, the bay and the ocean. You're between marsh and, a pine stand. Everything about, and then, they're only active at dawn and dusk. So everything about a Sika hunt is very much this kind of liminal transitional space that you're in. You're hunting something that's not supposed to be there, but is, and somehow it just fits.
Are you hearing them, targeting them, and then slipping up on them?
It depends on the time of the year. If we're catching them during the rut, we play kind of like a turkey hunt as much as we can. Like locate, and try to set up and call it in. But if they're not talking, it's a little more whitetail ambushy.
Mm-hmm.
But
so in that situation, you like set up on some sort of like natural travel corridor or a pinch point and kind of wait for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's really, it's a lot of fun. And you've got the ability to, depending on what's happening, with whitetail hunting, at least on, where we are, there's no like spot and stock. There's no, locate. You just kind of sit there and you hope that they walk by you. And with the Sika deer, it is really fun because you have the ability. It's kind of a choose your own adventure, what you want to do with them. And the terrain, it's pretty. I mean, it's flat, but there's some nasty stuff out there.
It's pretty thick. It's just like
it's briars and phragmites.
Yeah, the more time you spend out there, the more you appreciate the animal because you're like, how can anything make it out here? Like, it's not lush. There's not a lot of forage for them. And it's like just oceans of briar and cordgrass. And it's just like, how can anything, eke out a living out here? But like, they're thriving, there's just sign everywhere. And you see them, at night when you're driving out of the place, but like they're everywhere, but like they're nowhere at the same time. It's
marsh ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like, I remember telling my dad like that, hunting whitetails here in Arkansas and like thick stuff. I was like, man, it's like hunting unicorns or something. Cause then they're just not there and then they're there. And it's like, you might not even see them come in, but you can like, remember like old tube TVs and you could go in a house and even if the volume was turned down, you could feel that a TV was on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that. You'll just like turn your head and it'll be there. And then you kind of get to see what you're made of. Like, and a lot of it's like, can I keep it together for the next 30 seconds in order to do it, like what I need to do?
Yeah.
Well, man, y'all are rad. I'm so appreciative that you guys came out here. It's been a really great hunt and a super cool hang. And man, I'll tell you what, it is so gratifying to like think and suspect that people are really cool and then meet them and be like, oh man, they're cooler than I thought, like, so, I think it's all right to meet your heroes sometimes, cause like sometimes they're radder than you thought they were. So, and you guys are definitely, super duper rad. So anyway, Elevated Wild, what's the best way for people to follow you, see what you guys are up to, check out some of these phenomenal recipes that Rachel is developing? Get in touch with you guys. I know Wade, you're starting to offer some like cooking courses and some deer butchery courses and stuff this year. And I hope that kind of stuff continues to evolve.
Yeah, I think best way if you're on social would be at Elevated Wild and the website elevatedwild.com. And we have a newsletter you can sign up for. That's where we announce all the classes, the demos, and things like that, that we're going to be putting together in the future. And we had a great time doing our first classes this year and just really want to do more of them. It's kind of like this, just meeting people who are excited and want to learn and, ask questions. It was really cool.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for having us on. This
Yeah.
has been,
No, for sure.
This weekend has been wild.
Yeah, no, we...
In an elevated way.
Yes. It's been elevated wild. We've been pinkies out the whole time.
That's right.
No, thank you so much. This has been great.
Yeah, no, I mean, this exceptional. It's been a great weekend, and I can't wait to come back, honestly.
Yeah, well, you got an open invitation.
Speaking of that, so like, we'll definitely do the Beaver Fest 2022.
Yeah.
But there's a caveat. You got to come turkey hunting with me out there in the spring at some point in time.
All right. I'll do that. Hopefully by then I've got this kind of van build out thing done. I've got clients like for one more weekend, and then the seats are all coming out of that Black Duck Revival van. I'm going to build a platform so I can sleep in there, and carry gear underneath it. And yeah, I'm planning Turkey Tour 2022 as well. I'm basically just trying to set my whole life up to where I just get to bebop around and hang out with cool people and hunt in rad places. So I'm going to do that for as long as I can get away with it, and it is conducive to being married and having children. And you guys are definitely like in the fold, like I told you the other day, man. You guys are the homies now, so... Anyway, so yeah, please check out Elevated Wild. Rachel and Wade, thank you so very much. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time. Thank you so much again for listening to this episode of the Black Duck Revival podcast. As always, it's produced by me, Jonathan Wilkins, and Brian Sachs. So we've been talking a bunch in the last few weeks about hunt school dates that are coming up. Those are still a few weeks away from being released, but I am happy to announce that the books are open for the guided catfish excursion starting this spring. Best time of year of that is going to be March, April, May, and into early June. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can log onto the website and find out all the information you might want to know about that. That website is just blackduckrevival.com. You can also sign up for the email list if you're interested in being the first to know about when those hunt school dates come out as well. If you want to keep up with me and all things Black Duck Revival, please feel free, and thank you ahead of time. Easiest way to find me is on social media. I'm most active on Instagram, and that's just Black Duck Revival. And here in the coming weeks and months, there'll be kind of an uptick in the content that gets posted there. I've got a couple of new projects that I'm working on that I'm excited to start sharing with folks here pretty soon. So again, as always, I thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you like it and you want more people to know about it, please take a minute, leave a 5-star review. A quick written review helps tremendously as well. Just keep listening, keep telling people about the podcast. It's definitely growing. I'm looking at the numbers and they're going up. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.